We did a course recently where we had a bunch of prior service guys there, and some of them were just like, yeah, I'm here for the training, you can keep your Jesus, and we're like, oh yeah, no problem, but we kind of were like, hey man, we got a church service, part of the training is you don't have to come, but if you want, and some of the guys were like, yeah, come on, so we're like, all right, well, like we were talking earlier, I expected, the church service, whatever you want to call it, to go for like an hour. It ended up going for 2. And some of the guys that were like kind of reluctant, they got up and actually shared where they were at in their faith walk, what their struggles were. They asked for prayer. We're praying for these guys. Everybody's crying, and I'm like, these are like tough dudes, And I'm like, man, like not what I expected at all.
Welcome to Hopecast, where we share hope and inspiration about what God is doing at Blessings of Hope in our local community and our personal lives. I'm your host, David Lapp. Today I'm joined by Shane Manney from the Five Stones Fight Club and Gym. So what can you tell me about Five Stones?
Oh, man. Well, Five Stones is a mixed martial arts sports ministry. So we use boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu as our way to build relationships and share the gospel. It's kind of it seems like an odd way that it works, but it does work. I don't know. It's funny because we always laugh. We say nothing says love like a punch in the face, but or we'll extend the right hand of fellowship or laying on of hands, however you want to put it. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do. We have the gym then itself that funds our local outreach and our international work.
Okay.
So we have the first Sunday of every month. Except for the summer, we take the summer off just because there's a lot of other stuff going on, ministry-wise. Yep. But the first Sunday of every month, typically, we go down to Harrisburg, and we have a homeless outreach, and we call it the urban outreach, basically. Anybody who will come from probably about 11 o'clock until we're either out of food or until about 3 o'clock, whichever comes first. Mm-hmm. We come and we feed them, and we pray with them and kind of just share what God lays on our heart, and it's just been really, really cool to be able to do that. And then also internationally, we do some humanitarian work and medical missions in Iraq primarily, Kurdistan region, primarily. I know there's been some people we've worked with.
Been over there.
Yeah, so it's kind of that's kind of a cool connection too. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we got going on, and that's
so when you think back to when you got started, where did you come up with food, boxing, and Jesus in the same boat here? Like, okay, this would be a cool mix to throw out there. We're going to box Jesus into people. How's this work?
That's a great question. I never had it put that way. So a lot of times I think we look, and this is just me personally thinking there, I think we look sometimes that a ministry has to be something like a program or a set thing that we do. And really, we talk about 5 things: identity, purpose, calling, training, and being on mission. And a lot of times, all of those things wrapped into being on mission, God's created us in a certain way, right? So we each have our own talents, gifts, and abilities, which is our calling. And we use that for the glory of God. And so, for us, it was we liked to wrestle and box and do jiu-jitsu, and it was kind of like this easy rollover where when it was just our friends doing it, we'd always, because faith was always forefront of all of our lives, we'd go into theological conversations, at the weirdest times. But we'd be we started off in my basement, and so we'd start off down there, and we'd be punching each other in the face or whatever, and at the end everybody's shot, we're like, well, so what's going on, and we just kind of share life, and that's kind of how it all started. But typically when you're done training, the first thing you do is like, man, I need something to eat or something to drink, like you're shot. So then that's kind of, we're like, man, every time we share, it's around athletics and around food. So that's kind of how it's always been.
Wow. Yeah. So what? Do you have any recent God moments that you can share about that where God just showed up in the middle of knocking somebody out or whatever?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do is with the people that come through the doors. A lot of times, we have a lot of prior service guys, right? Former military, law enforcement guys that come through the door. A lot of times it's because either they've left the military or they're looking for that like bond that they had, and they just haven't been able to find it just because they're geared slightly different. And so this kind of gives the opportunity to reconnect and do the physical side of things but then it also opens up for the conversation. We're like, hey man, what are you doing Sunday? We got church at the gym, because we do church. We drop the the ropes to the ring, and we preach from our ring. So we have church right there in the gym. So that's kind of how it works. But some of the other things that we do is we do some training, some medical training. We did a course recently where we had a bunch of prior service guys there, and some of them were just like, yeah, I'm here for the training, you can keep your Jesus, and we're like, oh yeah, no problem, but we kind of were like, hey man, we got a church service, part of the training is you don't have to come, but if you want, and some of the guys were like, yeah, come on, so they're like, all right, well, like we were talking earlier, I expected, the church service, whatever you want to call it, to go for like an hour. It ended up going for 2, and some of the guys that were like kind of reluctant, they got up and actually shared where they were at in their faith walk, what their struggles were. They asked for prayer. We're praying for these guys. Everybody's crying. And I'm like, these are like tough dudes, and I'm like, man, like not what I expected at all. So, yeah.
So when you wake up in the morning, what gets you excited? Like what's the juice that gets you going in the morning?
Yeah.
Just I know a lot of people say coffee, but there's a passion
there's
beyond
more
coffee.
than that. Yeah, I almost said coffee actually, but the biggest thing for me is I love when you see the physical side and the spiritual side click. Like they'll be training. I'll give you a story. So where it started with me, right? My dad was a Marine. He did 23 years in the Marine Corps, and as a kid, we trained together and stuff, and we used to run this mountain, and I was probably about 10 or 11 at the time, and we're running up this mountain, big cold mountain, and he would run for hours, so I never knew how long we were going to go. Like normally I'd take my bike, this time finally he's like, time to be a man. So I'm like, okay, here we go. So we run, and there's a bunch of switchbacks, and we're about 3/4 of the way up, and he stops me and he says, okay, he says, find a buddy. I'm like, find a buddy? And he's like, yeah, find a buddy. So I'm like, this is like me and you on the mountain. There's nobody else here. And he's like, he walks over, he picks up a rock the size of a football. And he's like, find a buddy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I pick up this rock, and he's like, here's the deal. Carry the rock, stay on the path, don't stop running, I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead of you. You're not going to see me, but I'll come back. Just stay on the path, keep running, I'll be back. I'm like, all right, got it. So he takes off. I try to keep up, he's gone. So every once in a while, all I could hear was the sound of my heartbeat and breathing, my feet on the dirt, and I'm just thinking, and he's gone. Like I'm running, I felt alone on this mountain carrying this stupid rock, right? And so you'd see him come back in the distance, he'd loop around me, and before he'd get to me, he'd be like, carry the rock, stay on the path, don't stop running, I'll be back. And he'd take off again. I'm like, ugh. So we'd go until we were done. It wasn't until years later that same thing, I'm carrying a rock, this time I'm with him, we're running together, and it hit me. I'm like, I come to a dead stop. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Dad, like, carry the rock, stay on the path, don't stop running, I'll be back. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's the gospel. And he laughed. He's like, yeah. And he throws a rock away. And he's like, put that rock down, let's go run. So I was like, how long are you going to let me run like this? So, but the way they come together, that's what I'm talking about, that connection.
Yeah.
Like, people don't realize in the beginning, I don't think, guys that are looking for something, it's not, they're looking to fill that void on the physical side of things. But what they're missing is that spiritual connection with the Lord. And when that happens through the physicality side of it, it's like, yes, that's it.
Wow.
That's what I love to see.
Yeah. So how did you first hear about Blessings of Hope, and how does Blessing of Hope serve what you're doing?
Yeah. The first time I heard about Blessings of Hope was from Dan Byler. And so Daniel was in Kurdistan, actually.
Okay, yep.
And so we were just chatting, and he's like, you guys should get hooked up with him for what you do. Because at the time, we were just going to, like, Wise or, whatever, and we spend a ton of money, and I mean, we'd get what we could, And so we got back, and we connected with Blessings. And after that, it's been huge. So now, like, we can actually go down, and we shop down at Blessings, and we plan essentially for, like, we can use this for that outreach, and we can get, and there's a ton of stuff there.
Yeah.
So it's been huge and instrumental.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard already where, some people come in, they have a menu, they try to fit their menu.
Yeah.
But if they come in, they see what we have, and then they make their menu off of that, they can get almost everything that they need to fill the menu. It's like, you might not have this kind of a green, but you have,
Yep.
and if you learn to improvise, you can use so much more.
There's a ton of stuff there. Yeah, and that's kind of what we learned because I mean, obviously, like I like to do this or I like to do that, but you get down there and you're like the first time my wife cried. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, man, like this is unbelievable, and for like literally just this that's ministry. Like when you're feeding people, at that volume, that blew us away.
Wow. So, when we think of people that we reach out to, there's hundreds of people or thousands of people that we might have impacted. But is there one story that really stands out? If you think back over the last couple of years, is there one specific story that stands out above the rest? That this was you can talk about the numbers or you can talk about the one. How did that one person get impacted? Is there anything that stands out to you, when you think back over the years with one person?
Yeah, I think like I look at it on the backside of it actually. So you see the numbers and you see the volume of people that are coming in and are being blessed by the food. But when I look on the back end, all the guys that have been in the gym that have got connected to the ministry, and now they're the ones who get to go feed people. I have 4 or 5 guys I think of right off the top of my head that they're like, here's the card, go down and shop, and it's just like, this is unbelievable. Just to see them be able to experience what I experienced on that first run, and they literally take ownership of the distribution of the food, which is really cool for them. So it's plugging them right in.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's when I think of like the one thing or the one instance I get to see those one instances probably monthly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there it is. You recognize it.
So if somebody wants to get involved in your ministry, whether that's serving, volunteering, financially, how do people get involved?
Yeah, so you could check out our website, www.fivestonesfightclub.org. That's probably the easiest way. You can scroll down through it and check out all the information is on there, what we're doing, where we're at, how you can serve and plug in. We have people that come, and just go down and meet us once a month down at in Harrisburg. People that come to church. Not everybody comes to the gym. The gym is just an avenue. You know what I mean? And I would even say, the gym has evolved in a sense that that's our touch point, but we always want to try to plug people in. And so it's been really cool to see guys come to the gym expecting one thing and then getting a completely different experience than what they expect. And they're like, wait a minute, so the money that we pay doesn't, like, you're not lining pockets. Like, no, we're like, it's going right back into ministry, and you can be part of that. So you get to see where your money goes. So that's kind of best thing is just online. You check us out, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that.
And for the 5 stones, is that the number 5 or is it spelled out FIVE?
Yeah, it's the number 5.
So 5stonesfightclub.org.
You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out. If you want to get involved in the ministry there, if you want to serve them, volunteering, financially support them, by all means, check it out. Anything you wanted to share here as we wrap things up?
You can pray for us. We're getting ready to head back to the Middle East here next month. So just keep us in your prayers for that. We have a couple good meetings set up that's just going to allow us to get into different places throughout the region.
Is that back in Kurdistan?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, I've been in Kurdistan area twice. It's a nice area, but when first time I was there was in 2014 when ISIS was pushing into we were working in Siji, closing up houses for some of the refugees, and we were probably 4 or 5 miles from where the fighting was happening, and it's just a whole different world.
It is a different world.
But when you come back, it gives a new appreciation for what we have here at home, and
that's right.
It just felt like we're living in a mansion, even though at that time we were living in an RV with 8 children.
Oh man!
Full time in an RV, and it's like, but compared to what they had, 5 families living in a 3-bedroom house. It's crazy. It was just and dirt floors, and then on top of that, they were offering us some of their food because we were working. And like, we can't take your food.
Yeah.
But it was just a whole different world.
They are some of the most giving, generous, and just genuine people that you're ever going to meet.
Yeah.
And so, and they're thankful. They're thankful that we're there, that people come and do that. And what I'm shocked at is it's a Muslim country, or Muslim region, I should say. But the Kurds are like, numerous times, they're like, tell me why you're here. And then we start talking about, our faith, and they're like, yeah, tell me some stories. And so we get the opportunity to share what God's been doing in our life, and they'll listen the whole thing.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, praise God. And that's it. And I'm like, man, all right, well, so.
Wow. Yeah, well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
thanks for being a part of what we're doing here and serving the community, and thanks for what you do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Hopecast. I'm your host, David Lapp, CEO of Blessings of Hope. To learn more about Blessings of Hope and how we serve the community, check out our website, blessingsofhope.com. God bless you, and remember that you can bring hope to the people that you meet every day.
Thank you for watching this episode of Hopecast. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out all the links in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.